What if you and I had a dream school? Ano kaya yun? Would it have dinosaurs like experiments? Little things that become big. What if we could suddenly see invisible things? Would it have a giant heart or a big, big brain? Or flies into outer space? May sagot sa ating mga tanong, pero tuturuan din tayo magtanong. Okay lang din magkamali, so that we learn so much more. Sa dream school natin, learning is never boring. So it's an adventure. How do we do that? What do we do? With the power of science, art and imagination, all the wonders you will find in the mind is school.
Tara na!
Let's learn all about our amazing world dito sa Mind is School! Oh, hey Mikey, what are you doing there? Oh, wow! Nice paper boats. But why is there one bound for Iloilo?
Teacher, kasi I really miss going home to my province for vacation. Kaya lang, dahil may pandemic, we have to stay where we are to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Oo nga, Mikey. Puro isla pa naman tayo. Around 7,641. So sana, kapag safe na, sana pwede na lang tayo maglakad sa tubig. Papunta sa ating favorite island, dito sa ating magandang bansa.
Gusto ko yan, teacher. I really wish that we can just walk on water. But come to think of it, we can walk on land, we can walk on ice, we can walk on a bridge, we can walk on the sidewalk. But why not on water kahit gaano pa kadami ito?
That is a great question, Mikey. Even without thinking, we just seem to know that we cannot walk on water. Pero, bakit nga ba hindi pwede? Kami ni Mikey ay mga scientists dito sa The Mind Museum. Ang tawag sa amin dito ay Mind Movers.
Dito sa Mind School, we make sure learning is always an adventure. And it always begins with a question. Our mission for today, to find out the answer to the question, why can't we walk on water?
And for this adventure, we need certain things like iced tea, wine, soy sauce, and of course, water.
May kinalaman ng mga bagay na to sa question natin.
We can see that these things occupy space, which we can measure.
And yes, they can also take the shape of their container.
And they can flow, as if dancing when we give them energy, like when you swing them or shake them.
Compare it with containers filled with paper or marbles. They do not flow. Each piece of paper or marble retains its shape.
Last time here on Mind is School, we discovered that all matter is made of atoms. Kasama na dito ang iced tea, wine, soy sauce, and of course, water. They're also made of atoms.
And atoms can also come together and form molecules. These toy models show atoms forming different molecules. The black ones represent carbon atoms. The white is hydrogen. The blue is nitrogen. And the red is oxygen. See, this is a representation of the water molecule. H2O. Teacher is holding a molecule found in coffee, which is caffeine. And this is lactic acid, which is a molecule found in milk.
Sa mga bagay kagaya nito, ang mga atom at molecule na bumubuo sa kanila ay hindi malakas ang kapit sa isa't isa. Kaya sila dumadaples at gumugulong. And that's the reason why kayang sundin ang mga bagay na to ang hugis ng kanilang lalagyan. Hindi kagaya sa atoms ng plastic na to, na malakas ang kapit sa isa't isa. Kaya may sarili itong hugis.
Because atoms and molecules are arranged in different ways in different materials, we get different personalities of matter. For example, with solids, whose molecules are tightly arranged, they have an uptight personality. But for molecules that are easygoing and roll freely within the shape of their container, we call them liquid.
Because water is liquid, its molecules keep moving around. They do not really stay in place. If you want to walk on water, we have to keep up. This means that we have to move at a speed of 108 kilometers an hour, or 30 meters per second.
Hanep! Even one of the greatest sprinters of all time, Usain Bolt, can't run that fast. No human can do that without the help of a machine.
Tama. At hindi lang ito dahil walang tao na kayang tumakbo ng ganyan kabilis. It also has something to do with how big and heavy we humans are. Smaller animals can actually walk on water, like these gliders.
That's right. These gliders are amazing creatures because they take advantage of something that liquids form that's kind of weird and very cool.
This weird thing is like a very, very thin blanket that is formed when the molecules on the surface of a liquid are held up by the molecules underneath. Since there are no more molecules above the ones on the surface, these top layer molecules form a bond with each other that forms a sort of membrane or barrier.
So if you're super duper fast and you're not heavy enough to break that membrane, you can really walk on water. But humans don't have those superpowers like those gliders.
We don't, Mikey. But we humans have the power to understand how this happens through science. This means we have the responsibility to make sure that other creatures who share this earth with us can also exercise their superpowers.
Last time on Mind is Cool, we investigated the way atoms make solids, well, solid. Let's compare them to the atoms and molecules of a liquid.
We call something a liquid if its molecules can slide past each other, giving it the ability to flow and take the shape of its container. But even if liquids can change their shape easily, they cannot change their volume as easily. And even though liquid molecules can move, they still attract each other. This attraction keeps a liquid together.
When we return, we'll do some fun experiments to learn about the different personalities of liquids.
Welcome back to Mind is School. Dito sa ating Dream School, asking questions is a big part of our learning adventure. Heto ang ilan sa mga tanong mula sa ating Mind is Schoolers.
My question is, why do things like ketchup come out so slowly?
That's a really interesting question. The fascinating thing about ketchup is its ability to flow changes when you shake it. Kapag hinayaan mo lang, mabagal ang pagdaloy o pagbaba nito. Katulad na rin ng ibang mga sauce like gravy kasi malapot. Pero kapag inalog, wow! Biglang bibilis ang pagdaloy.
Wow! Ngayon alam ko na kung paano pabilisin ang paglabas ng ketchup sa bote. Mahilig pa naman ako sa ketchup.
Oops! Naghugas ka ba ng kamay?
Yes, Mikey. I always make sure to wash my hands before I use it for eating.
It's a useful trick, di ba, Fisher? By the way, stickiness is one of the many personalities of liquids. It's called viscosity. Ito ang katangian ng bilis sa pagdaloy ng liquid o ang kanyang pagiging malapot o malagkit.
I see. So, pag kinumpara mo ang oil and water, you can say that they have different viscosities. Mas malapot ang mantika kaysa sa tubig. Oil is more viscous than water.
Tama, Fisher. And marami pang ibang liquids like ketchup have this special property. Their viscosity changes depending on how much force is applied to them. Liquids like these are called non-Newtonian fluids. Let's do some experiments to find out more.
Ooh, cornstarch at tubig. Magluluto ba tayo, Mikey?
Fisher, mag-e-experiment tayo to observe one unique behavior of non-Newtonian fluids. Kids, pwede nyo itong gawin sa bahay. Just mix 2 parts of cornstarch and 1 part water. Kapag hinaluan natin ng cornstarch ang tubig, mapapansin nyo na mukhang dumadaloy pa rin ito, pero iba na ang pakiramdam kapag hinawakan. Parang ganito.
Bakit ganun yung kulay niya, Mikey?
Nilagyan natin siya ng purple na food color.
Nice! So pwede kahit ano yung kulay no, na gusto ng kids natin. Wow! This is so cool! It can be molded into some sort of solid shape if I squeeze it. But if I open my hand out, it flows like any other liquid. Ganito pala ang non-Newtonian fluids.
Yes, Fisher. Ang tawag dito ay oobleck. Nag-iiba ang kanyang personality depending on the force that you put into it. When you squeeze it, you apply enough force na nagsisiksikan ang kanyang mga molecules kaya parang nagiging solid siya. Pero kapag lumuwag na ang iyong hawak, hindi na nito kayang i-hold ang kanyang shape and so it flows out just like other liquids.
Let me try something. Matigas siya. Parang pader. Pero tignan niyo naman kung anong mangyari kapag magaan lang ang puwersa na ibibigay ko sa oobleck.
Fisher, parang nalulunod na yung kamay mo.
Tama, Mikey. Dahil non-Newtonian ng oobleck, hindi ito sumusunod sa regular na pagdaloy ng Newtonian fluids. If you squeeze a container of oil twice as hard, it also moves twice as fast. However, non-Newtonian liquids respond to force in a different way.
Yes, Fisher. Nagiging parang matigas ang oobleck kapag mas malakas na puwersa ang binibigay dito. Pero, dumadaloy kapag hahayaan lang. Yung ketchup, gaya ng nakita natin kanina, baliktad naman. Masyadong malapot kaya hindi siya dumadaloy agad-agad kapag hindi natin inalog.
That was a fun experiment, Mikey. And now we have another question from one of our Mindus schoolers.
Why aren't raindrops square? Why?
What a wonderful question! Alam natin na ang mga liquids ay dumadaloy at walang definite na shape. Pero, nabanggit natin kanina na dahil sa surface tension, gliders can walk on water. The molecules at the outer part of water get pulled inwards and it will have the minimum surface area, which is a circle, and this is the same thing that makes the water, your tears, and raindrops na pabilog ang shape. Let's observe this glass. Puno na siya, di ba? Paano kung dadagdagan pa natin siya ng tubig? Aapaw kaya? See? The water molecules created sort of a curved barrier at pinipigilan nitong umapaw ang dinagdag nating tubig. That's surface tension in action.
Tignan mo, Mikey, oh. Nakagawa ko ng square na tubig.
Wow, Fisher, that looks fantastic! Pero, paano nangyari yan?
I promise you, it's not special effects. I'll share my secret. It's water repellent spray. Tinakpan ko ang ibang parte dito ng spray maliban sa isang maliit na part na pa-square ang hugis. Kung saan may spray, the water just slides off. Walang attraction. Dun sa may parts na walang spray, nagkukumpul ang tubig. Nangyayari ito dahil ang molecules ng spray ay may katangian na sila ay hydrophobic. Ibig sabihin, takot sa tubig. It only means na they do not mix well. Remember, water molecules tend to stick together. Kaya yung water molecules, magkukumpul sila dito sa parte na walang hydrophobic spray.
That was a cool experiment, Fisher. And now we have our last question shared on our Facebook page.
Why does water and oil mix?
Oh, that's an excellent question. One thing I love about science is how we can understand things we cannot see using the things we can see.
That's right. For example, by looking at how liquids mix or do not mix, we can learn about their molecules. Malamang narinig nyo na ang pangalan ng tubig sa chemistry ay H2O. Ibig sabihin nito, ang bawat molecule ng tubig
ay binubuo ng 2 atoms ng hydrogen, kaya H2, at 1 atom ng oxygen, kaya O. Tingnan nyo ang water molecule. Dahil sa pagkakaayos ng electrons sa oxygen and hydrogen, ang buong water molecule ay may both positive and negative charge. Kaya ang water is a polar molecule. Dahil may both positive and negative charges ang bawat water molecule, they attract each other, kaya pag sinalin mo ang tubig from one container to another, nagsasama pa din sila.
Yan din ang mag-i-explain kung bakit universal solvent ang water. Kasi it attracts many things dahil may both positive and negative charge siya. This includes many materials that are important to life, like salt and sugar. Paano kaya yung mantika?
Ang pagkakaayos ng electrons sa oil ay hindi nagbibigay ng negative or positive charge dito. Parang deadma. Kaya oil is a non-polar molecule. So dahil walang charge ang oil, hindi siya sumasama sa positive or negative charge ng tubig.
Pero Mikey, di ba may mga liquids na pwedeng ihalo sa tubig?
Actually, Pisher, marami. Isa na dito ang alcohol na mahahanap sa ating alcohol solution. Maglalagay muna ako sa kamay ha, para mapuksa ko yung germs. Ikaw rin, Pisher.
Thank you, Mikey. Ayan. Importante na parating mag-disinfect ng kamay.
Ganito ang itsura ng molecule ng isopropyl alcohol. Kagaya ng tubig, polar din ang molecule nito. Kaya naman, pwede silang paghaluin.
After the break, we'll show you how to make art out of different kinds of liquids. Thanks for joining us on Mind is School. Now, we'll learn another important property of liquids, density. Density is a measure of how tightly packed molecules are. Kung mataas ang density, mas siksik ang molecules. Ang mga bagay na bababa ang density, parating lulutang sa mga bagay na mas mataas ang density. Ang density ng mantika ay mas mababa kaysa sa density ng tubig. Dahil dito, lulutang ang mantika sa ibabaw ng tubig.
Ngayon na alam na natin ang tungkol sa density and polarity, pwede na tayong gumawa ng artwork gamit ng iba't ibang liquids, pati na solids.
Wow! Ganda, Mikey! Paano mo nagawa to? What are your materials?
Well, Pisher, they can be any set of liquids with different densities and polarities. For this one, there's glycerin and then honey. On top of that, corn syrup. There's soap. The white liquid is milk, oil, and alcohol, but with food coloring.
See, Mikey, can you show us how to do it?
Of course! So let's start with our first liquid. This one is glucose. Glucose is a form of sugar, kind of like a syrup. We're using glucose first because it's the densest among our liquids, so it's going to settle at the bottom. Our next liquid is glycerin. So glycerin is one of the ingredients of making soap. Okay, so it's red because we added some food coloring to make our artwork vibrant and colorful. So now we have our oil.
Add a bead. Yeah, I'll add a fish this time.
Let's go with our last liquid. This is just alcohol with some food color so that, again, our artwork will have different colored layers. There we go. So you guys can make this kind of artwork at home, but make sure to ask your parents for help and try not to be wasteful.
I hope you all had fun doing all of those experiments on different liquids. I'm sure we did.
These experiments are things that all of you can do in your homes. For sure, patok yan with your family.
Knowing about liquids makes us realize that some of the liquids we take for granted, just because we use them every day, are really special. Now that we understand more about liquids, mas naiintindihan natin kung bakit ganun mag-behave. For example, ang mantika, ang gatas, at ang pinaka-common sa lahat, tubig.
Yes, Fisher. Lalong-lalo na siguro ang tubig dahil kung walang tubig, walang buhay. Kaya napaka-importante na maintindihan natin paano mag-behave ang tubig.
Tama, Mikey. For example, sa ating bahay, ating banyo o lababo, alam natin na ang tubig na liquid ay gumagalaw parati. So kung may dadaanan siya, pupunta siya doon. Kaya pag may sira yung gripo o shower, dadaan ng tubig doon kahit hindi niyo buksan. Sasayang ang tubig.
At sa mga creeks, rivers, or oceans, isipin natin na as liquid, water will flow where it can. Kaya naman, pag maraming nakabara ng basura sa ating mga canals or rivers, water cannot flow through para lumabas sa dagat kapag may malakas na ulan. Kaya nagbabaha.
Yes, Mikey. At pag umiinit naman ang liquids, katulad ng oceans, nagiging mas energetic ang molecules ng tubig. Ibig sabihin, napapalayo ang water molecules sa isa't isa. Imagine nyo, excited kayo ng kalaro nyo. Di ba? Tatakbo kayo. When that happens in liquids, they start to evaporate para maging ulan o bagyo. Pag ganito nangyari sa oceans, mas maraming extreme weather disturbances. Ganyan ang nangyari sa climate crisis.
Ang pag-init ng temperature ng planet ay dahilan sa mga bagay na ginagawa ng tao. Ang energy consumption natin, ang agriculture natin, ang mga sasakyan natin. Lahat ito ay nagdadala ng chemicals na bumabalot sa ating atmosphere kaya umiinit ang planeta. Kaya pag naiintindihan natin kung paano maapektuhan ng climate crisis ang liquid na essential sa buhay katulad ng tubig, bigla ka talagang mapapaisip.
Yeah, at hindi lang yun. Dahil ang solid na tubig sa lupa, kagaya ng ice sa Antarctica, ay natutunaw at nagiging liquid. Maghahanap sila ng pupuntahan at eventually, pupunta sila sa dagat. Dahil dito, tataas ang level ng dagat at maraming coastline sa buong mundo ang lulubog. Konektado talaga ang lahat ng bagay.
It's so important to connect what we learn to our daily lives. Dito sa Mind School, we always do that para maiintindihan natin ang epekto din ng actions natin sa ating buhay at kapaligiran. Mahirap mahalin ang hindi natin naiintindihan.
Yeah. At lalo pa nating mamahalin ang mga bagay kapag naiintindihan natin.
Do you know what time it is?
Yes, Mikey! It's time for the Coolness Meter! If you've been following our show, you know that we have a Coolness Meter for our Mind School adventure. Siyempre, super cool silang lahat. But we've come up with different kinds of cool. We have mind-blowingly cool, mysteriously cool, and inspiringly cool.
Our rating for today's adventure is...
Inspiringly cool!
We had so much fun learning with you all today. Thanks for watching.
Join us in our next learning adventure. It will be on something you normally cannot see. It's really powerful. Air! We want to ask you, why is air invisible? How can it make things float?
Please share your answers or questions about that and let us know what you think about the show on our social media at MindSchoolPH. Or you can send us an email too. We'll share some of your submissions on the show.
See you next time dito sa Mind is School.
Where learning leads to a better normal.
For more fun science and art videos, subscribe now!